I wasn't a big coffee drinker for a long time. Although I suppose most people don't drink a lot of coffee when they're kids. I know we didn't. We were always more of a soda pop family, right? Uh, you know, Dad would get the expensive soda, the Coca-Cola, right? And then we would get the 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 Fago soda, which is kind of a local Midwestern brand, and it's like 3 liters for $1, something like that. And that was kind of our drink. It was just caffeinated sugar water, right? Oh boy, what fun. My mama drank coffee when I was a boy. She had this house on the side of a hill in Kentucky, and she'd wake up every morning and sort of look out over the mountains and drink a cup of coffee. And but it didn't really pass on to my father. I didn't really pick up coffee drinking until I was in the service, like a lot of people, I think. Because when I left for the army, I had, you know, going from having no money to a steady paycheck is tremendous. And I'm like, oh, I could buy anything I want, which I mean, I wanted like rock star energy drinks and, things of that nature. I wasn't buying a Lexus. I was just buying more expensive sugar water. And that was kind of how I lived my life. I'd buy a Monster, buy a Mountain Dew Code Red, Mountain Dew, there was the one that Mountain Dew made that was like 4 times stronger than regular Mountain Dew, right? I was just, I'd put it right in my veins if I could. And I remember sitting in my barracks room, right? We weren't supposed to smoke in the barracks room, but we all smoked in the barracks room. This was 2007. That was a different time. And I remember sitting there, smoking a cigarette, drinking a Coke over ice, watching Mallrats by Kevin Smith, and just kind of enjoying being on my own for the first time. And then when I left for Iraq, I was trying to lose weight. And that's how I started drinking coffee. I wasn't really the cream and sugar sort of guy, not typically. Because, they said, oh, coffee has just as much caffeine, if not more, if you make it right, and no calories. And I'm like, oh, sold. I got height and weight coming up here. And I would go to this place called Green Beans that was on the base. Green Beans was this coffee shop, right? And it's sort of like a Starbucks, but on every military installation on the planet, every U.S. military installation anyway. Kind of like a Burger King. If you're on an army base on the planet Earth, there's almost always a Burger King and a Green Beans. If you're outside the continental United States. And they had this thing called the MOAC, which was the mother of all coffees. And we would go there and we'd get one, and then I'd add 4 extra shots of espresso into it. And this was in the 130-degree heat of Iraq. And I'm not saying it was a smart move because I would drink too much coffee and not enough water in the heat. And oh man, one day I was starting to crash and I had to coach my roommate how to give me an IV one time because I'm an idiot. And as my time in the army continued, coffee had this other sort of symbolism about it, right? It was almost a communal experience. The the meme, if you will, of the NCO walking around with a 3-liter mug of coffee, right? It was kind of part of the accoutrement, it was part of the identity, right, of leadership. Almost, you know, it was part of your identity as a soldier, but especially as a non-commissioned officer, where you just drink coffee, right? Everyone drank coffee, and the coffee pot was a communal place. And some people would just wake up, have a Marlboro Light and a cup of black coffee and go to work, and that was breakfast. And so I kind of glommed onto that, you know, because like when you're part of a culture, an organization, a tribe, and then as you get older, you move up the tribe and the culture and the organization, and you're like, oh, I want to adopt these symbols, these signs of experience and leadership and success, right? One of the many signs of experience, leadership, success was just a coffee cup, right? Like, oh, that's an NCO. Oh, he's got a coffee mug. Of course he does, you know. And so when I became an E5, I was all about coffee, right? And two, also horribly addicted, right? And trying to kick cigarettes, but that'll be a different video. But yeah, I was always in search of a coffee pot, right? Which, being a medic in the battalion aid station, came in handy, because the battalion aid station was typically set up next to the main tent. And the main tent, the commander always had a cup of coffee pot going. And so I could usually sneak in there and grab a cup of coffee. And I was one of the medics, so people would think, oh, he might save my life one day, maybe. So Lester could have some coffee. I'll be honest, I had no shame in my game back then. And now, kind of like my mama, like everyone else in the military, like it just kind of becomes a part of the morning ritual. You know, it's a thing you do. I wake up, I feed the cats, I scoop litter boxes, and I make a pot of coffee. I'm not real. My two favorite brands is probably Black Rifle Coffee, and there's a local brand here called Hoosier Warrior Coffee that I really enjoy. But if I'm just buying, you know, I'll get the $5 huge box bin, whatever, from Aldi, you know, just to have coffee on stock, just because I remember during the shutdowns, you know, in 2020, people were running low on coffee. And given the disruption in the supply chains these days, who knows? So I usually have about 2 months of coffee on hand at all times. Oh man, God, I'm so glad I quit smoking.